Hello everybody and welcome back to another Otamatone lesson brought to you by Hami. I'm Nelson Silva, otherwise known as Moshi Bass, and the goal of today's lesson is to learn some very easy, very common notes that are going to be useful in a lot of different songs. And the way that we're going to do that is first we're going to learn 3 notes, and we're going to use those to play the song Hot Cross Buns. After that, we'll add one more note and use that to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. For all things Otamatone, make sure you're subscribed here to the Hami YouTube channel. I also really recommend checking out our All the Small Things tutorial. It will tie in very well to this lesson. So let's jump right in. The strategy today is that we're going to use a different finger for each note. So before we worry about the specific notes, let's just get a feel for the movements. Let's start by taking our index, our middle, and our ring finger and placing them on the touchpad basically right next to each other. They're practically touching each other. You can use either your left hand or your right hand on the touchpad, whatever is more comfortable for you. The only recommendation I have is that if you already play an instrument like guitar or violin, I would recommend using the same fingers that you use for that instrument to touch the strings. So I'm placing them on the touchpad just like so, and let's just get a feel for pressing with the different fingers. Press with your index finger, press with your middle finger, press with your ring finger, and practice going back and forth between all 3 of them in different patterns and just get a feel for that movement. Like I said before, you can place your hand anywhere you want on the touchpad for this. Just keep in mind that as you get closer to the head of the otamatone, the notes get closer together. If you find it too difficult or uncomfortable to use multiple fingers, don't worry, you can still follow along with the rest of this lesson using only one finger. And as a side note, there are a lot of fantastic otamatone players who only use one finger. There's also a lot of otamatone players who are really great and use multiple fingers. Honestly, if you ask me, I think it's really good to be able to play both ways. So if you're comfortable with the technique, now let's start to get a little bit more specific with the notes that we're playing. So in this video, I'm going to use my index finger to play the note C. The way I'm going to find the note C for myself is I'm going to use my ear with a reference pitch and try to match it on the Otamatone. If that's too difficult for you, I highly recommend checking out the Otamatuner app. I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. So there's the note C, and on my Otamatone, the note C is right here. Once you find the note C, you can go ahead and mark it with like a sticker or a piece of tape. You could write the letter C, you could write the number 1, or you could write do, as in do, re, mi. So now that I have my first note, let's go ahead and find the second note that we're gonna play. That's gonna use our middle finger, and it is the note D. I could go ahead and check with a tuner or with a reference pitch again to find the note D. But I can almost guarantee if you just put your fingers next to each other so that they're touching, you'll get pretty close. So we've got C on the first finger, and then D on the second finger. Now I promise we won't get too complicated or deep into music theory, but I do want to tell you that this distance between the notes C and D, we call this a whole step. So on a guitar, a whole step is the equivalent of moving 2 frets. So if you're playing the note C on the 3rd fret, you would move up to the note D on the 5th fret, 2 frets apart. Or on a piano, it would be the same as moving up 2 keys. So if we're on the note C right here, we would go up 2 keys, 1, 2, to find the next note D. And that's called a whole step. So just like the second note we learned was a whole step away from the first note, the third note we're going to learn is a whole step away from the second note. First, we learned C with the index finger. Then we learned D with the middle finger. And now we're going to learn the note E with the ring finger. So once again, please feel free to mark these notes if you'd like to. You could write C, D, E, or 1, 2, 3, or you could do do, re, mi, whichever of those you like best. I especially recommend marking these if you're going to play everything with one finger. These 3 notes are incredibly common and very useful to know. They are the first 3 notes of the major scale, so they get used in a lot of different songs. Today, we're going to use them to play the song Hot Cross Buns. It's one of the most common beginner melodies there are. Here's how we play it. We'll start with the ring finger, and then the middle finger, and then the index finger. So we're just going down the 3 notes that we learned in order of high to low. E, D, C, or mi, re, do, or 3, 2, 1. So we do that a couple times, and then we are going to repeat each note multiple times. And as you can see, the technique I like to use is holding the note on the touchpad and then opening and closing the mouth to make it sound like the note is repeating. And then at the end, we just repeat how we started the song by playing the 3 notes from high to low again. So here's a quick playthrough of the whole melody for you to follow along to. So that's Hot Cross Buns using only 3 different notes. If you feel comfortable with that, let's take things a step further and add a 4th note so we can play Mary Had a Little Lamb. The first 3 notes we learned were C, D, E. Obviously, they're going in alphabetical order. For the 4th note, we're actually going to skip a letter and go all the way up to G. So the 3rd and 4th note are going to be a little bit farther apart than the other 3 notes. You might remember I said that the other 3 notes were a whole step apart, the equivalent of 2 frets on the guitar or 2 keys on the piano. The notes E and G are 1.5 steps apart. So that's going to be the equivalent of 3 frets on the guitar or 3 keys on the piano. We're going to try to use our pinky to play the note G. I know this can be a little bit challenging for some people, so if it's too hard to use your pinky, feel free to just slide your ring finger up to find the note G. If you are going to try using your pinky, here's a tip I have for you. The first 3 notes are pretty close together, so depending on the size of your hand, you'll probably feel your fingers touching each other, but for the next note, your pinky is going to be spaced out a little bit and probably not touching your ring finger. If you want another little music theory tidbit, these are the first 4 notes of the major pentatonic scale. If you don't know what the major pentatonic scale is, don't worry about it. But I just thought I'd mention that. That's what these first 4 notes are, and they show up in a lot of songs, just like the pentatonic scale does. So we're going to go ahead and use those notes now to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. Feel free to mark that on your Otamatone with a sticker if you'd like. Just to review, these 4 notes are C, D, E, and G. You could also mark them as do, re, mi, sol, or you could do 1, 2, 3, and pay attention, 5. Remember, we skipped the note F, so this would be 1, 2, 3, and 5. Okay, so enough talk. Here's Mary Had a Little Lamb. So that just about does it for today's lesson. I just want to give one more piece of advice. If you feel like you're having trouble playing in tune, don't obsess too much over it. I really recommend just trying to get the motions down, and then you can tighten up your tuning later once everything's flowing. So thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you next time. Please leave a comment if you have any questions at all or any requests for what you'd like to learn. And make sure you're subscribed here to the Hami YouTube channel for everything Otamatone. Have fun!